12:35. Tommy Bosco runs a Winnipeg Skid Row mission that caters to ex-cons and ex-addicts trying to make a better life. Bosco is a specialist in making people disappear, but when his ex shows up after the murder of a biker gang boss, that's when things really get interesting. Ooh, I'm already intrigued. Do you want me to read more? Well, I think you should just pick up the book yourself. It is the first novel from my next guest. Clean Sweep is a crime novel by first-time author and former automotive journalist Michael Clark. He is launching it tonight at McNally Robinson Grant Park, and he joins me now. Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, Marjorie. And by the way, you're hired. You're doing a great job helping me pitch here. So
maybe this is what I can do, like books on tape. What do you think?
Absolutely.
I'm so intrigued.
You've got the voice.
Thank you. Okay, let's start off with the book. I just read a little bit there of a teaser, but give us an idea of what people can expect by reading this.
Well, the thing that I found as I've been following all the different reviews, and I've done things for book bloggers, crime fiction, I guess the best way to describe the book is hard-boiled. Anybody who knows their crime fiction knows what hard-boiled means, which means that unless it's 9 o'clock, 9:30 in Newfoundland at night, we ain't talking about any of it on the air.
So how did you come up with the concept for this book?
Well, it actually all stems from a very good friend of mine that the lead character, Tommy Bosco, is based on. And I must make sure that people realize loosely based on. But he did, in another life, he actually was a cross-border smuggler. So, and he tells the most colorful stories. I mean, whether or not they're real or imagined, you just want to sit and listen to them. And they just... They kept permeating, and I just decided one day that after writing screenplays and not getting anywhere for almost a decade, I decided, well, maybe I should just write a book and then somebody else can write the screenplay.
Okay, so why a crime novel? Because when I read here in the introduction, you are actually an automotive journalist. Some people might not make the connection, say it's a little bit of a hard turn. So why did you decide to write a crime book?
Well, the thing about automotive journalism, and I think I finally reached a point where when people are starting to get more excited about the fact that their steering wheel lights up and drives the car for them and they can drink coffee, it's time for me to get out. I mean, myself and Pat Kanuga, we're car nuts inside and out, and we were just talking about his Trans Am convertible that's at the World of Wheels this weekend. And I love I love cars that you actually have to drive. And as I saw what was happening to the industry, I was really starting to get a bad taste in my mouth. It isn't the industry that I got into, and I decided, well, if I'm going to leave, what am I going to do with all this creative energy? And I've only got so many cabinets at home to refinish, so it was... But this has been a long slog. I mean, I actually started this back in 2009 with the Millennium Library with the writer-in-residence. I first did the writer-in-residence back with Linda Holman about 17, 18 years ago, and that kind of got me into the newspaper business. But then Bruce McManus really was very instrumental, very well known in Winnipeg playwright, and he just, every time I would send him something, he would say, keep going. Keep going. So, Bruce, keep going. McManus, if you're listening, thank you very much, because this is all a big part of what you told me to do.
And I want to mention that Pat Kanuga is our Radio Noon producer, Pat Kanuga, who I think a lot of our listeners are very familiar with. So how does writing a novel really differ from writing for journalism? Or as you mentioned, you wrote screenplays, right?
Exactly. And the thing about screenplays, I mean, I really enjoyed writing them. And I think at the time I had these illusions of grandeur that I was going to write $1 million screenplay, and then me and Pat would just go and buy Trans Ams for fun. But it hasn't transpired yet. But the thing that actually... where did this all start? Probably happened back when I was a kid at the family cabin at Bird Lake. And back in those days, unless it was the Stanley Cup playoffs, you weren't going to try to tune in because there was nothing to tune into. The radio, not much better. So you had the pulp fiction. You had the books that were at the lake. So that's what you started reading. And I mean, I read some really weird titles. I remember reading Bullwhip Griffin of all things, and then I read Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should read something else by him. And then I read Catch-22, and then my mind just kind of exploded from there. So and then I got into other pulp fiction things. I still have my old weathered copy of I, the Jury, and Mickey Spillane, and those writers. Today, one of my favorites is Michael Connolly. So crime fiction is what I like and enjoy, so I figured, well, write what you like, write what you enjoy, and write where you are. And that's why Winnipeg had to be the backdrop.
Yeah. Do you mention quite a few Winnipeg landmarks in the book?
Oh, it's lousy with them. I mean, if you love Winnipeg as much as I do, and there's this texture to it. There's a taste. There really is. And when you take it that one step further into the world of crime, and as much as we like to believe that we are very friendly here, and well, if you read my book, you'll realize that friendly Manitoba is just on the back of your license plate. And I do take artistic license, and I'll be the first to admit that. I'm not suggesting that people start going and buying 3 or 4 deadbolts. It's really not that scary here, but it's a fun romp, and that's really what I envisioned it as being. And as I'm writing it, I see the movie in my head too. So, and what would be better than a Winnipeg-based crime fiction novel being turned into a movie made in Winnipeg, where Winnipeg isn't Chicago, Winnipeg isn't any town USA.
Yeah.
So I would really like to see that happen.
You bring up a good point. So then any plans to possibly turn it into a screenplay or anything?
Well,
like
there's certainly some talk already. I've got a few people that I kind of know in that industry, and I've certainly made that known. And I really think that like when I think about the actors that could play the characters, and I mean I take a look at example of what's going on with Lisa Moore's Caught right now on CBC, and I mean I look at this and I go, yeah, what's Mr. Hawko doing after that? Let's bring him west.
So what are your because you touched on this a little bit, what's your advice to people who maybe think that I want to write a novel, I don't have it in me, where do they start, what should they do?
I think the key thing that I want to get across to any budding writers is that you really want to concentrate on the story. The story is the most important part. You may not have all of your facts right. That's for later. Your grammar may be a minefield on the best day, as mine is, and I'll fully admit it, even with the words. I don't know how that ever happened to me. But just if it's a good story, everything else will eventually fall into place. So first and foremost, story, story, story.
Okay. And for you, what would make this book a success?
Well, half decent Crown Victoria parked out front.
That sounds like a good way to gauge some success.
you have to get into this with the understanding that if you're getting into it thinking you're going to make $1, get out. You have to be doing it for the love of it. I do it for the love of it. I finished my second book, which is now in the editing process with ECW Press, and now I'm actually working on my third, and yes, it will be a Manitoba-based story.
Looking forward to those books. I asked Pat if I can take this copy with me.
Actually, I have a signed copy for you because I bought a new pen. This is my thing I'm doing. Every time a new book comes out and I have to go to book signing, I bought a new pen, and I'm sorry because it was a little sloppy.
Oh.
So it's, in fact, let me just read the caption here. To Marjorie, damn this new pen, and thanks for your support, Michael J. Clark.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Michael.
Thank you.
Michael Clark is the author of Clean Sweep. The launch is tonight at McNally Robinson Grant Park. Go check it out. Go see him. It's at 7 o'clock tonight.